All right, welcome into the Black and Gold Banneret. Jeff Sharon, Brian Murphy, Eric Lopez with you, and joining us for our annual preview of UCF baseball. Most of the probably about as normal as it gets, right? Greg Lovelady here with us to talk about his team getting ready for 2021 in this bizarre total offseason. Greg, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. It's been definitely a crazy 11 months and, a really crazy 2 months. And it's amazing that we're finally here. And, seems like it was years ago that we last played a game. So I'm excited to see our guys compete again. That's for sure.
Tell me about how I asked every coach this, how did you get through, the end of last season through to now, just in terms of the day-to-day, like dealing with your players, because, it's a limited amount of time that you can see them and all that kind of stuff. So what's it been like?
Yeah, it was tough. The first couple of weeks were really just a difficult time, I think, for all of us, just going through the shock and especially for us, being so good and being on a roll and the what ifs and all that. It really took like 2 weeks to kind of, accept it, I guess, and move on. And then just kind of accept the new normal. And, it's obviously crazy for the next couple of months. The summertime is normal for us, even though we were kind of in quarantine, and that kind of stuff. A lot of things were shut down like it was normal, as the summer is more recruiting. So we spent a lot of time, watching live stream games on the TV and multiple screens and multiple devices, watching different games and, FaceTiming with families because they weren't allowed to come on campus. And so we just had to pivot and adjust. It was what it was. And so we needed to be able to do that. So, but then not knowing what the fall was going to look like. It was so, there wasn't a ton of planning out. A lot of reasons, I think the administration, we didn't want to make a decision too early, and then regret it or whatnot. And, say, okay, we're not going to do something. And then, oh man, we can, or say we're going to do this. And then at the last minute, like have the rug pulled out again from us. So, it was kind of fly by the seat of your pants where, you just like the week before we started, fall semester, it's like, we were just starting to get an idea of what it was going to look like and what the fall was going to look like. So that was definitely interesting. But then, from a workload standpoint, the fall was pretty normal, obviously not meeting in person with guys, but having a lot of, virtual stuff, which was definitely weird at first. And, very difficult, I think, to, as coaches, I think we learn to kind of, feel out the temperature of the room and being able to make eye contact and engage in these meetings, whether you're teaching something or whether you're just talking about, maybe practice from yesterday and trying to feel out how the guys, if they understand attention, that stuff. So that made it difficult, but in terms of the workload, it was normal, and then get into break and stuff. But then January was just hectic for me because that's when the scheduling kind of stuff just went absolutely bonkers. So, and then just trying to get to practice and make sure everybody's healthy and that we're getting all the things done that we need to and preparing the kids as best as we possibly can. Like it's just been a whirlwind. But at the same time, like it's just the new normal, I guess. And, you just show up and do your work, and whether that's on virtually or in person or on the field, or you got to do differently than you did in the past. Like we've all just had to adjust and figure out a way to make it happen.
Well, Coach, through all of that chaos and all of that newness, and you talk about January was really hectic, getting the schedule together. How do you feel? What do you think is your team's mindset now as you're a few days out from the start of the regular season? Do you feel like this, the mindset of this team is like any other team that you've had heading into any other season?
I think I think they're excited, obviously. Just to get back to competing with each other and being able to, see another team. And, a bunch of them got to play in the summer in some summer leagues, but, I think that they're really excited to get back together as this group and, be on the field. And I also feel like, they're very confident just from last year, the things they were able to do. And I feel like they think there's unfinished business, things that we were, trying to do as an organization and as a program, and things that we were on the path of doing, that they were really excited about accomplishing that we didn't get a chance to do. I feel like they want to go out and kind of, they understand this isn't the same team and nothing gets carried over, but they feel like this is kind of like, all right, like we kind of got to start over, but we're going to start over where we ended, kind of mentality. continue to build and continue to put ourselves on a path to reach the goals that we set out to reach last year. That we just, unfortunately, it's different when you just kind of don't reach the goals, or, you end up having a tough loss to end the season or something like that, like where there's some closure. Like there was no closure. So I feel like, hopefully we'll just, just from an energy and a way we go about things. I mean, wins and losses are gonna be kind of somewhat out of our control. You know what I mean? Like we just got to go out and continue the energy and the way we were going about our business, the way we were preparing, the confidence that our kids had. Like just go out and continue to play like that, and we believe that good things will happen to the team this year.
Take us through the process first, as from the conference standpoint, deciding to go to a 4-game series and the discussions of how those took place, and then if that influenced you at all as far as non-conference and scheduling 4-game series the way you did because of it.
Yeah, we wanted to protect the conference schedule. We wanted to be able to kind of figure out a way to not put any of those games at risk as much as we possibly could. And just talking to the doctors group and the league administration and whatnot, I mean, they just felt like, not risking playing other teams and traveling in midweeks and doing those kind of things was going to lower the chances of something happening. And again, it's not to zero, but they were trying to lower the risk of, weekend games being canceled and not being able to play them. And again, it's not like basketball or football where it's like, okay, let's try to find another opening here or a bye week here. We can kind of maneuver some games. We got one shot at it. So trying to kind of keep the conference games sacred kind of thing was kind of the thought process of it all. And so we just figured, well, let's guarantee more games. So we're not gonna play midweek. So let's move the midweek game to the weekends. That way we don't have to try to load up early in the year. We get more conference games. So because there was a shot that it was gonna go conference only. Like that was definitely in the discussions of not playing anything but conference. And so trying to make sure, and again, if it was like, okay, you can only play weekend series, or we didn't know really. I mean, there was a lot of things, moving parts around the table. So if this happens or if that happens, this will give us the most amount of games. And kind of allow us to kind of have a full conference schedule and whatnot. And so the rest of the schedule was really just putting pieces together of who can play us. January 1st, out of the weekend series, only 2 of the 6 weekends are the same. So 4 weekends changed between January 1st and January 15th. Like I was scrambling, trying to figure out how do I move this and how do I move that and who can I play and who cannot play. And so dealing with all these coaches and then trying to find backdoor replacements, like just in case, and then it all coming to fruition, but then those getting changed and then negotiating where to play. Like, I mean, it was just a mad dash of trying to figure what parts fit. And at the end of the day, it's just trying to, we're all trying to accomplish different things, playing at home, not spending money, not staying overnight, like things like that. Everybody had things that they were looking for, needed to play on the weekends. And so how do you fit all those pieces together? And I think that the schedule came out pretty good. I mean, it's going to be really, really difficult. But you want to be the best team in the country. You gotta challenge yourselves. I think our team is prepared for that. I think we're really good. So I'm not worried about that. We just got to be able to control what we can control and understand that we might not start off the same record as last year and things like that, but we just got to show up and continue to try to get better every single day and understand, embrace the challenge, embrace the schedule, embrace the travel, and put ourselves in the best situation that we can to put ourselves in the NCAA tournament at the end of the year.
And everyone knows how important last season the Auburn series was when you guys went on the Plains and swept them. And this year you've given yourself an opportunity to kind of do it again with another SEC top 10 team in Ole Miss. Talk about how that series came about and how important that one weekend will be at the end of February.
Yeah. I've tried to do home and homes the last couple of years, and we had Auburn and now we have Ole Miss. So they'll be back here next year. So just trying to get ACC and SEC type teams. I want to put ourselves in regional type atmospheres, put ourselves where, if we don't host, that other teams will host. And even if we are hosting, like those are the type of teams that are going to be the number 2 seed. So you want to play those types of teams. You want to play in those types of atmospheres. And it's, Auburn, I mean, especially Ole Miss, that's a rowdy place. So that prepares you to to go to a place like Tulane or Houston or Wichita or something like that, where the crowds can be really kind of vile and getting on you guys. And so you want to be able to do that. Even a super regional, if we don't host a super regional, we're gonna have to go to a place like Ole Miss and win. And so you don't want that time where you go to a regional or super regional and you're in that type of atmosphere and the kids are like, holy cow, like I've never played in this type of atmosphere before. You want them to experience it, to understand it. It also gauges, where are we at? Like, obviously last year it gauged us at a pretty good spot. And man, we got a chance to be really good. And again, that confidence just kind of grew. And again, I don't think the wins, obviously the way we won, especially the later on in the weekend, I think really kind of it spiked our confidence. But even if you go in there and you play really tough with the 5th team in the country, even if you get swept, like it's really a gauge of how did you play in that atmosphere? How did you play against that, the top 5 team in the country? Like, and what do we need to be better at in order to get to that level? So I think it's a great gauge. So whether you win 3, lose 3, like you just want to be competitive. But again, you could get blown out 3 times and say, all right, we got a lot of work to do. Like we got to get back to the drawing board. Like we can't carry last year's series against Auburn into this. Like, so there's a lot of teaching points that you can get out of it. So challenge ourselves, put ourselves in some rowdy situations, some rowdy atmospheres, like, and engage on what we need to, where we want to be and what we want to be at the end of the year. Like this now gives us a gauge of, okay, over the next, 13 weeks, like what do we need to be better at in order to put ourselves in the best situation to compete against these caliber type teams in regionals, super regionals, in the College World Series.
Well, you mentioned teaching points. I'm curious, tell us about some of the new faces on this roster that you think can make an immediate impact on your team.
Yeah, well, the new faces, AJ Jones and Kenny Sir were 2 grad transfer pitchers. Obviously losing Trevor and Jeff Hakinson and Jalen Whitehead was 3 really, really big losses for us. Those guys were just rock solid, experienced. Jeff was the best closer in the country. Trevor was one of the best Saturday starters in the entire country. And Jalen was just a great, Swiss Army knife that could start, could come in relief, could do a lot of different things, throw a lot of different times during the week, and really gave us some, just continuity, but also, just that calmness of a guy that had been through the wars and been in the trenches and all that kind of stuff, that knew how to handle himself. And he was going to go out and give you a great effort every time. So losing those 3 guys was really big. So bringing in these 2 grad transfers just gave us some more age that are going to be able to step in right away and be a big part of our pitching staff. So those 2 guys obviously are big. And then you got, 3 or 4 freshmen that are pretty good. Ben Vespe's got a chance to really help us. Zach Bennett has probably the best breaking ball on our team, and he's a big kid, like has the ability, typical freshman, both of them are going to need to get their feet wet and kind of get that underneath them, get them in some stressless situations and make them feel comfortable, and then kind of increase their roles. Nick Vieira and Vince Bonanni, same thing. Like those 2 guys have really good stuff. They're not as polished as obviously the returners yet, but those guys have the ability over the course of time to kind of get better and grow and understand how to pitch. And, they'll get to learn from watching, Colton and Hunter and Kenny and AJ go at it, and kind of get to learn how those guys go about their business. So I'm excited about those pitchers that I feel like can really help us. On the offensive side, Alex Freeland and John Montez are 2 just really, really special players. Alex is a switch hitting shortstop. John's a left-handed hitting infielder. I think we're very lucky to have both of them here with the shortened draft, which obviously is a positive for us. They're just very, very talented. I'm excited about their future. I think both of them are going to get a ton of playing time for us and be able to help us. So those 2 guys are going to be huge parts of our offense. But those are kind of the biggest additions, the guys that are going to make the biggest impacts on our team. With all, again, with so many returners that we have, it's just a really good mix of young talent with older veteran guys that are really, really good and guys that have made some jumps. I'm sure we'll get into that, but we've had some guys that have made some real serious jumps, I think, that, are going to be really impressive.
Yeah, well, I guess we can get into that now, because when you look at the fall ball, your offense was really good in the fall. Yep. Who do you think really stood out there, made those biggest jumps in the fall?
Nick Romano, I think made the biggest jump. Just from a physical standpoint, he's kind of leaned out a little bit, just become more physical, was a big physical kid, but more of an offensive lineman than a linebacker kind of thing. So I think he's really short up his body. Just the power potential, was always there, but just the consistency of it showing up just wasn't where it needed to be. He is just, last year he hit over 300, I think, in the 18 games, but it was very soft, like a lot of singles, a lot of ground balls that found holes that weren't hit that hard. Just, I won't say lucky, but it was, I thought, a little bit. There's been no luck to him. I mean, the balls that he hits on the ground are just murdered. He's hitting balls off the wall, over the home. I mean, leads the team in home runs over the course of the entire fall and winter. So I just think he's made the most consistent jumper. I think he, you say, oh, he hit over 300. He might not hit 300 this year. But he's got a chance to really knock in a bunch of runs, like doubles, double-digit home runs, like that kind of offense. I think can really make a jump. I mean, Andrew Braid had a great night. He's out for the first 4 weeks with facial injury, but he made a huge jump for us offensively in the fall. Obviously, he missed the entire winter, so it's going to take some time for him to get back and get in the groove. But he made a huge jump. Tom Jostin just last year was kind of really hit or miss, and this year I just think the consistency and understanding in the game slowing down, and just that's where the veteran stuff, just the game just starts to slow down for those veterans. So I think those guys have made some really, really big jumps. Jeffrey has been great and been Jeffrey. So and Jordan Rathbone, again, just another year, and last year just kind of announced his presence with some authority, like from the year before where he wasn't very good, and his confidence level and just, again, the maturity. I mean, when you got 23-year-olds, it's way different than 18-year-olds. And so, you just see the maturity of Rathbone, was out for a week and comes back and hits 2 home runs in the first game back, like a week and a half ago. Like he just, missed some time and then comes back and 2 home runs in the first game back. And it's just kind of, doesn't try to do too much, isn't worried about the moment, isn't worried about impressing anybody. Just let me get my work in. Let me do my thing. And so just that maturity and stuff, like, I think the top of our order, and again, those younger guys at the bottom of the order, like as they get more at bats and stuff, I mean, I think we can be, I feel like we're 11 or 12 deep on guys that could play every day for us. And that gives me some opportunities to mix and match. It gives me some opportunities to play some defense or some offense, and, really studied the Rays a lot. Talked to Chad Mottola just about, them putting in the best lineup for that pitcher and what his stuff is, not necessarily right on right or left on left, but what does this hitter hit well? Like what kind of pitchers does this hit well? Does he hit well? And then being able to maneuver the lineup based on that. And I won't be shocked if when we're healthy that, we're putting out, 4 different lineups a week on the weekend of, this guy playing short, this guy playing third, and then maneuvering it around where this guy moves from third to second, and then these 2 other guys come in and things like that, or this guy DHs or goes to left field and whatnot. So, I think there's some maneuverability, some late game maneuverability, some pinch hit opportunities where guys, are going to have some roles that are daily changing. Like, hey, today you're starting. Like, tomorrow you're going to be the guy off the bench, but you're still going to be able to big part of this, big part of the team and a big part of the game. So everybody needs to be ready at all times.
The returners that had the success last year, because I remember we spoke a year ago, there was a lot, hey, we don't know how these guys are going to react when it comes, when the games start for real.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them had that success, and they had that winning success, even though the season came to an end. Does that positive carry over to this year for the individuals? I know it's a new season, new team, but just having that confidence that, hey, I can be successful at this level, and we can be successful what we're doing.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, I think, because I think there's a lot of confidence that comes with it. So these guys believe in themselves. They know that they can do. There probably was some doubt, like, I hope I can hit at this level. I hope I can perform. Like, I've never done it before. Like, so I think that there's probably some self-doubt and some feeling your way into the season, and then all of a sudden you start having that success of not only personal success but winning. Like, that's just a confidence, and you get some momentum, and you start to believe, and that doubt starts to creep out, which is what we're trying to get the kids every day to play free and easy, and the mentality of just go out there and be confident, even when you're not. Like, trick yourself into being confident. And we're trying to teach all that. The bad part about it is we got off to a great start. Like, there's no guarantee that we're going to do that this year. So we got to be really, really careful on a guy goes 0 for 10. Like, what does he do? How does he handle it? Does he freak out? Like, oh my gosh, last year I was hitting 300 at this time, and now I'm hitting 100. Like, and he starts to panic and what we call red light in the mental game. Like, then he just starts to spiral out of control. Or do we have, do they have the mental skills, and do we do a good enough job as coaches to kind of maneuver them through those times if it happens? And again, I think the same thing of not getting overconfident of like, hey, like, I'm pretty good. Like, this is going to be really easy and I don't need to work as hard. So, I think as coaches, that's what our biggest thing is trying to make sure we maneuver through all that. But we definitely have a lot of confidence coming in. We just got to make sure that, we don't get off to a bad start or something, and that spirals into the opposite direction of panic, and we just start panicking and losing games because we're trying too hard or don't understand why we're not starting off the same way as last year. You were right. It's not last year, so it's new, but we definitely carry that confidence over from last year.
Zeroing in on a couple of hitters, but one, Pablo Ruiz stands out to me because for a stretch last season as a true freshman, he was your best offensive player for some stretches. Where have you seen him make some strides in year two?
Well, I think just his body just getting stronger, the consistency. He was very streaky. He's still kind of streaky, but just trying to get that out of him, understand that, hey, man, like, you got to be able to do different things and hit the ball all parts of the park. And we got to be able to be better at pitch recognition. So, I think he's really worked on all that stuff. He put him in the outfield last year for the first time in his career. So I think he's more comfortable out there playing defense, which I think takes less pressure off of him offensively, where he's just kind of outfield, like maybe a little nervous and unsure. And now I feel like, he doesn't worry about the defense. So hopefully that'll help his offense. So, I mean, he obviously is super talented and, plays so hard and plays with just like fire coming out of the back of his head. And it just, the energy that he brings is contagious. And it's just that guy that just starts it all for us, I feel like, but his ability to hit in the middle of the order and knock some runs in and do some special things. So, I mean, he's definitely gotten more consistent, I think. And, excited to kind of see him now as kind of a veteran, be able to kind of take what he learned last year and just kind of make it even better.
A year ago, you talked about your pitching staff as a whole, the deepest you've had with quality arms, especially in the bullpen. Obviously, you lost some big guys that we talked about earlier. How do you feel about your starters and your bullpen going into this season from a depth standpoint and quality standpoint?
Yeah, I think quality. I mean, this is by far our best starting rotation that we've had since I've been here. When Sir was back, like, we got three legitimate aces. Hunter Patterson made a huge jump from last year. Obviously Colton has gotten better. Both those guys have Friday night stuff in this league. They're both top 5 round draft picks. Kenny, has been through the fire, been a Friday night guy, been in big situations, been pitcher of the year, like, knows how to handle himself, knows how to go through a season. So, I mean, I feel like we have 3 legitimate aces, which I don't feel like we've ever had here. And so that's really, really awesome. And then when you add Jackson Sinclair, who might be the best pro prospect out of all of them, David Litchfield, those, and then again, AJ Jones, those 5 guys are the best group of 5 that we've ever had since I've been here. Last year we had, now the bullpen, we lose Jeff, and if Jack and Litch are still back there, now Hunsaker has made some strides forward, third year guy. Like, I expect him that he can kind of fill that Jalen role. We just need 1 or 2 more guys for the depth that we had last year. We need 1 or 2 guys to really step up. The McKays, Lepkowski back and being healthy now. Some of those young freshmen, like, if we can get 1, 2, especially 3, Eli McCormick, who has shown flashes of being our best bullpen guy, possibly, you know what I mean? But just doesn't have the consistency yet. Like, again, never pitched in a real game, so it's hard. So, I mean, we have the ability to have the same depth, if not more depth, than we did last year. Right now, I don't think we have that, but we have the top end in terms of the top 5 are better than we did last year. So the starting, I think, rotation is improved greatly, especially, with the Sunday guy, just a huge improvement. But then, our bullpen, Jack and Litch, obviously a year older. Jack is even better than he was last year. Litchfield, the same. So just the age and growth and all that kind of stuff. So if we can just have 1 or 2, Billy McKay, again, Nolan Lepkowski, Eli McCormick, the freshman that I mentioned before, Ryan Saltonstall has been better, so those guys, Nick O'Tilla, I mean, all those guys, none of them had huge roles last year. But we're going to need at least 1, possibly 2. And if we can get 3, 4 of those guys to really step up their game and pitch like they can. I mean, we've seen flashes of it in practice where those guys are doing really, really well. It's got to be a consistent basis, and they got to do it in real games and all that. And that's the big question mark, just like it was offensively last year. Pablo looked great in practice, but can he do it in a game? Jeffrey was having a monster fall and everything, but can he do it in a real game? Like, when there's video of him, can they make adjustments? Like, so the same thing, like, from a depth side on the pitching side, I think our top end is better. And the depth right now, it probably isn't as good as it was going into last year, but we have the ability to be deeper than we were if some of those guys step up.
Well, when we talked to you yesterday about the rotation, you obviously said that Colton Gordon and Hunter would be 1 and 2, and then Sunday would be TBD. And then you started listing some guys who would maybe start, go into that Sunday spot. The first guy you mentioned was Jack Sinclair, and maybe I was misreading it, but does Jack have an established role? It seems to most people, like, because of the success he had last year, such a dominant late inning guy, 8th inning guy, that he would be the natural replacement to Hickinson. Do you see that, or is he sort of just variable in what he can do?
I think going into the January, that was the plan. Obviously, Serwa being out has kind of made us adjust plans a little bit. I want Jack, could be our best arm. And if not, he's one of our top 3 arms. So I just don't want to not have that guy pitching on a weekend or whatnot, especially in this situation. So, I think it's going to be a situation where if we don't use him on Friday and Saturday, then, okay, how do we extend him a little bit? Again, we weren't sure with Kenny. Kenny didn't, been hurt and stuff, and not sure if Hunter was going to be the guy that he was. Like, there was a chance that Jack was going to slide into that Saturday role. So all fall we had kind of extended him just in case. Again, if there's an injury or something, like we want our best arms to be out there. So we had kind of planned just in case and just kind of be able to go either way if we needed to, knowing that he had the experience in the back end of the bullpen. We just wanted to extend his pitch count and stuff. And so he was prepared to do either. Obviously, with Kenny being out here the first week or 2 or 3 or whatnot, I just don't want to, again, that lack of experience in the bullpen other than Jack and Litch, it doesn't afford me the ability to just say, hey, let me go throw some inexperienced guy in the game on Friday night to get a save. Like, I just don't know how comfortable I feel with that. So if I got to use Jack on Friday night, I'm going to use Jack on Friday night to close. And if I got to use him on Saturday, I'll use him on Saturday. And then, again, I'll just readjust the thought process as we get through each game. And if that means he's got to start on Sunday, then that's that. If we feel like that's what's best for us. And, again, it's just going to be so many variables on Fridays and Saturdays, especially these first couple of weeks of what happens, that where he slides in. And again, somehow, how do those other guys do? Nolan Lukoski's been 90, 93 in games and whatnot. And that's what he was as a freshman in our inter squads. And then when we put him in the game against Seminole State and St. Leo, he was 96, 97. I don't know if that's going to happen again this time or not, because we haven't played another team. So maybe, maybe when he gets in the game, that gives us that extra bullpen piece and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different things. And then I also, what does that look like for the weekday games? And then we go to 4 games. Like, what does that mean? Like, if those guys in the bullpen, Litchfield and Lepkoski and McKay, those guys, Eli McCormick, those guys really step up and become those guys. Like, Jack might be best suited for us to be one of our 4 starters going in the conference. So a lot of question marks in terms of his role. He's willing to do whatever. I just want to make sure that, again, he's one of our top 3 arms. I want to make sure we're using him the right way and to get the most out of him that gives us the best chance to win as many games as we possibly can.
You almost have to be flexible with playing the 4-game series doubleheaders and the way the schedule plays out. You have to be flexible with the roster. You talked about me talking with Chad Matola. The Rays have always been very versatile. Guys could close on a given day or start on a given day in different positions. It sounds like you may have to be like that this year as well, be kind of adaptive to the situation, because it's a unique schedule. You're not used to playing 4-game series every week. So you can't really have certain guys pitch every day as a result of that. So you have to be very versatile.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you want to protect the guys. You want to make sure that they're as good at the end of the year they are in the beginning. So you want to make sure you don't overuse them for that aspect. You obviously don't want to put them in situations where they're going to get hurt. A situation where Jack comes in and closes the first game of the doubleheader, like, do we bring him back in the second game if there's a save situation? Well, probably not early on in the year. Maybe in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, that's something that happens. Well, you better have somebody that you feel comfortable that can close. And what happens if you use Litchfield and Sinclair on that first game? Well, then now they're both gone. So you better have guys that can come in and finish games for you, that aren't just those 2 guys. That's where the depth's going to come in. So it's definitely going to show the depth of the teams. I think the doubleheaders, the 4-game weekends, are going to show the depths of the pitching staff, depths of your catching, even the depths of your offense. I mean, playing 4 games is a grind. I mean, now we're going to have a lot of recovery time during the week. It's not like you're playing, a Tuesday or a Wednesday game. So you have time to recover in that aspect. But as you get through the weekends and you get to that 3rd and 4th game, like, and then you got the Saturday game and then the quick turnaround the Sunday, like, how do some of those guys offensively handle it? You know, the catchers, like you got to really protect them and really make some maneuvers that are going to give the guys the best opportunity to be successful long-term in terms of, be great if we're hitting 320 as a team going into conference, but then if we run out of gas and we're hitting 210 the last month of the season, like that's not what we're looking for. We're trying to get better as the year goes on, not worse. So how do we put ourselves in the best situation to continually have growth and continually get better every single day so that we're better on June 1st than we are on February 19th. So definitely some maneuverability is going to be needed. That's why the depth is going to be important. And we got to need some of those guys to step up, especially on the mound to be able to take some of that pressure off of those guys at the top.
I have a couple of quick final questions, but one I wanted to get to. We've talked about Kenny Sirwa a little bit, but one thing I've heard that's intrigued me is how much is he going to feature a knuckleball this season?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. Like, he has one and it's not bad. So, again, I haven't seen him really use it in a game yet. Like how does he bring that to the table? What does it do? Is it just kind of a shock pitch? Is it something that he uses a lot? Like, I don't think I haven't really got to that point where I've asked, I'm just hoping to get him on a mound and get him back, and with knuckleball or not, like the rest of it's too good anyways. But you add that knuckleball in, there's a chance that, you might see some crazy stuff. So we'll see.
Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. All right. I want to ask you, actually, you mentioned you spoke to Chad Matteo earlier. Me and Murph spoke to Chad recently. Yeah. And he had a lot of great things to say about you. And obviously he said he's spoken to the team last year and he follows the team and you guys have talked and things like that. What does it mean to have someone like that who's an alum, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, maybe position player in UCF baseball history, having the success he had with the Rays, getting to the World Series, but being able to pick his brain in a big league level and how it works things and kind of tossing some ideas there. What's that like?
It's huge for me just personally, like just so even away from UCF, just to have somebody that has that kind of knowledge, especially from that type of team that does so many, kind of new age analytical things that maybe, the rest of the country doesn't do, like just trying to get an insight to what they do. And obviously he can't give me all the information, but he's able to kind of give me some information and give me thoughts and ideas. And I bounce some ideas off to him of, hey, like, well, here's what I'm thinking with my guys. Like, what do you think? What would you do? Or how would you handle this? So just to have somebody at that level that's had the success that he's had, is doing such a great job with their offense. And again, just doing different things than maybe the Yankees are doing, or the Red Sox that are just going out there with dudes all over the place. They're having to mix and match and fill parts with, guys that other teams didn't want. And they had to find how to bring those guys in and find what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then exploit those strengths and weaknesses for a positive outcome. So I think just listening to him talk just gave me a bunch of ideas, but to have that guy on a Rolodex and just be able to call him anytime I want to. And obviously he lives here in Orlando. So, hey man, like, let's go have lunch and be able to do that means something to me personally. From a UCF standpoint, like I'm a huge alumni guy. I understand that big time. And I teach, I talk to the players all the time about leaving a legacy and planting trees and those, you don't get to reap the benefits of that tree, but the future does, you know what I mean? And so, we have this beautiful stadium and that team that went, 50 something and whatever, and was the number one seed in the regional in 2000 and 2001, which are pretty much the best two teams ever. Like, because of those guys, like we get the stadium, you know what I mean? So we get to, they had one pair of shoes, one t-shirt, one uniform for the home and one uniform for the road. They played on the field across campus that was more like a high school field. You know what I mean? Like, so we get to reap all the benefits of what others have done and put this program on the map. And so I feel the same about every alum. So, Chad Matteo, he raises the bar of being the highest drafted player and ever to come here. And so we talk to the players a lot about that. They know a lot about Jason Arnold and D Brown and Coach Bergman and Jim Horvath, who's the first drafted player ever in the history of UCF. So like, I want to teach them about the history. So having Chad come back or Jason come back, like to have those guys come back and speak, and just the kids to get a visual and understanding of, when they tell the stories of, hey, I played at Tinker Field or I played on the south side of campus, and we dressed in the dorms and drove over, and we didn't have, our locker room was miles away, and the locker room was gross, and we got one t-shirt, like all that stuff. Like, just want them to understand that, like, that guy was a 5th overall pick, and he didn't need 7 shirts. He didn't need the best equipment. He didn't need the best locker. He didn't need any of that stuff. Like, and he was still, one pick ahead of Jeter. You know what I mean? Like, Like, you don't need all this stuff, but you get it all because of people like him and teams like them, and because of Coach Bergman and what they built. And so having those guys come speak, I think, is a visual and an understanding of, man, this is somebody who cares about our program. It's somebody that helped build the program, that planted trees that I'm taking advantage of. And one, I owe it to him to go out every day and be my best and to play and to continue building this program. But two, also, like, I see what that guy's done for me, and I want to be able to come back and talk about the things that our team did or that I personally did to help move the program forward, so that in 10 years when we've won 3 national championships or something like that, you can come back and speak to the team and say, even though I only won 1 or I never won any, those guys, I was part of those. You know, I always talk about there was when Clemson won their first national championship, they had their middle linebacker was the white guy, like tatted, like beard, like goatee that was like really long. I can't remember his name now. But, you know, he got up on stage after winning the national championship. He said, this is for Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins and the guys that were the first of the Dabo Swinney era that really started the culture that started all. They didn't win the national championship, but if it wasn't for those guys, the path wouldn't have been where it was to get to that national championship. And I thought it was awesome for that guy to realize that and understand that, and to thank those guys for setting the tone, for setting the culture, for being the leaders, and for really setting that program on the track that it is now. And so, again, that's something that I've taught way before that, but that was like a great example of the things that we teach in terms of leaving a legacy and planting trees. And, you know, those guys like Chad Mottola, like, I want to make sure that, you know, when we host for the first time, like, I want to know that those guys that should have hosted it in 2000 and 2001, like, that those guys understand that the only reason that we're doing it is because of what they did and the things that they had to endure and the things that they did. And so, but having Chad and being able to come and speak to the team, like, but any alum, like, to me, that just enhances what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to get the kids to understand, and really gives them a visual of what it used to be like here and how lucky that we are and how much we owe it to all those guys to go out every day and take advantage of what we have.
And Coach, my last question is sort of baseball adjacent, but I remember you telling me a few years ago that Charles Johnson growing up was your guy, you know, as a catcher, South Florida, Miami. His son has transferred and will now play wide receiver for UCF.
Yeah. I Charles and say he can come by the field anytime he wants to. I got his number immediately and said, CJ, you are welcome to come and hang out at the baseball field anytime you want to. Like, and then we've met and talked before, but I didn't have his number or anything like that. So obviously we have a connection just with Miami and us both being catchers. He'd come back for alumni games. And I mean, it was the coolest thing for me ever when he would come back for an alumni game and I'd catch and he'd come in and smack me on the shin guards with his bat. And I mean, I almost passed out like every time, like, and I mean, I just was in awe of the guy. I mean, he's my hero growing up. He's the reason why I play baseball and why I wanted to be a catcher and why I wanted to go to Miami. And when I saw that I knew he had a son and I didn't know that he was at Tennessee. And then all of a sudden I saw on Twitter that he was coming here and I immediately got on the phone. I got his number and I texted him immediately. And he's like, I just left. I just moved him in, you know. So we had a conversation. I said, look, you are welcome here anytime. Like, I don't care. I will stop practice. You can talk to, you can take whatever you want to do, sir. You can do whatever you want to do. So I'm excited. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see him again. And when he's back in town and whatnot, that he'll come hang out with us and I get a chance to hang out with him. So it'd be cool. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I was jacked up. I was like, I texted Heupel and I was like, hey, do you know who my hero is? And, you know, who I grew up like idolizing? And he was like, he like named off somebody like, you know, like Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, it was, I can't remember who he said, but it was just some like major player, you know, that was probably from my era. And I was like, no, dude, Charles freaking Johnson. And he was like, oh, you got to get him to come over. I'm like, dude, I already got his number like 3 minutes ago. Like I'm reaching out. Don't worry about it. So I said, I appreciate you bringing his son here so I could relive some of my childhood dreams here with him here. So it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. I got one last question for you, Greg, before we go. A general baseball question too. The professional baseball agreement was just renegotiated between Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball, and it's a total restructuring of the relationship between the two. And they bumped it down to 120 teams, and so that means that there's fewer professional opportunities. And obviously, you know, we all agree that that's not the best thing for baseball in general. But what does that mean for college baseball in particular? Because now does college baseball take a more significant role in the development of players and coaches now that there are fewer opportunities at the professional level?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, for the next couple of years, it's going to be a really kind of sad you know, and I think I agree with you when we talk about, some of my players who probably would have played pro ball are not going to get the opportunity to play pro ball now. And so that, for the next 5 years, maybe like that transition period is going to be difficult just to handle of kids, just not getting that chance and kind of expecting the chance or knowing that they could have the chance. As that phases out, just like anything can change, you know what I mean? Like, when they tore down Rosenblatt, like I was distraught. How could they do this? Now the kids don't even know what Rosenblatt is. And like, they just look at TD Ameritrade as the mecca of college baseball, where for probably people like my age who played in it, and then you had the transition, it's a much different feeling. So in 5 years, when it's the norm of, hey man, not everyone gets to play professional baseball, like only the best of the best do, like it's going to become more normalized. But until that happens, it sucks for some of my guys to say, man, like you're not going to get a chance. But then in the long term, like you're absolutely right. I mean, already with the draft being shortened, I feel like we got, 2 or 3 players in this draft that, that are freshmen that we normally don't get. And I think that a lot more players are going to see the value in college baseball, understanding that, the new norm for minor league baseball is if you get drafted out of high school, you're going to go sit in a minor league facility, not play another team. You're going to practice an inter squad for 2 or 3 years before you get to go to A-ball and play like affiliated baseball. And that means Arizona and Florida all summer for 3 summers, like, and the competition won't be there. It's going to be about developing, which I don't think is a terrible thing. I just think that we're doing the same things in developing players, and we get to compete. And I think that that's going to be probably a really good option that maybe, the first rounder is going to be the first rounder, but those second, third, fourth, fifth rounders in the past that were signing and going to minor league baseball, that might not happen anymore. And it's not going to happen anymore. And there's going to be less teams that are picked. So there's going to be more kids there's going to be an influx of talent into college baseball. The parity, the talent level is going to be really different. I think we're going to end up becoming more of a minor leagues per se than we have been in the past, where there's always guys that are getting drafted out of college. But I think you're going to see more of that, where the first round is going to be maybe more college guys than before, and which is good. I also like the fact that, you get these guys that have great careers in college and then they disappear for 4 or 5 years in the minor leagues and you never hear from them again. And all of a sudden they pop back up in the big leagues. Or maybe this speeds the process up, just more like football and basketball, where those guys are building brands in college and then they go right to the NFL and they're playing on Sundays and they're on TV and they're doing all that stuff. Like, how do we get more like that, where, the brand that we help build for these kids, like kind of goes right into the next level, and we kind of see them in the big leagues faster. So maybe less levels will speed up that process, get younger guys to the big leagues, kind of get out of the 40-something-year-olds that are, just because of their experience, they're still playing or whatnot. And they got to change some of the financial structures too. And we got to pay people earlier in their careers, and, which is going to be tough, but we're paying too much money to guys on the back end of their careers when they should be getting paid on the front end of their careers in the prime of their career. They're getting rewarded on the back end because of the collective bargaining agreement. So hopefully that'll change too. And but the next couple of years will be tough for our college guys that aren't going to get that kind of are hoping to get that free agent deal or that 40th rounder. But when that becomes normal-ish again in 5 years, and that becomes the set thing, the influx of talent in college baseball is going to make us even a better product than we already are.
Greg Lovelady, head coach of UCF Baseball, joining us here on the Black and Gold Banneret. The opener is Friday, 2 days from when we're recording this, February 19th, at home against the FAU Owls. And, of course, then they go down to FAU, and then they're back home for Tuesday against Stetson. So
That's
old faces in the same places as before. So it's just like a normal year, right, Greg? Everything's totally normal. So good talking to you, man. Thanks for spending time with us, and best of luck on Friday night. Best of luck the rest of the season. We'll see you there.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me.